Hello, this is Lisa from Imagination Sisterhood Studio, and I've just basically started this YouTube channel and a Facebook group. And one of the things I thought I would do would be kind of walk through a project from beginning to end and show you all the steps that it takes me to make a journal that I like. So I thought the perfect opportunity would be to use this gorgeous paper by Paulette from TLC Creates Vintage. And she actually put these papers on her free printable Facebook group. I mean, look at these. This is just gorgeous. And the March challenge was to make a masterboard with these prints. So I thought I would walk through not only how you make a masterboard, but then what do you do with whatever you've made from the masterboard, and also talk about what I do when I get papers like this, whether it's buying them from Etsy or whether it's somebody's given me a freebie or whatever. So let's talk about that real quickly first. So Paulette, and I'm not even sure what I started with, I gotta be honest, but anyway, Paulette gave us all these prints, and basically what I do when I get something like this is I print them off in all different sizes, and that gives me a variety of things to play with. So here's the full sheet of this, but I also have it in two different sizes, tiny, tiny, and middle size. Here is this page, but here it is a little bit smaller. So that way I have lots of different sizes to use, I have lots of different shapes to use, and I can use it in so many different ways. I even will take the prints, and I think she gave us some a little strip of this, but then I added it together and I also doubled it up. So now I have just a variety of sizes. And that may be on what you want to do, but that's how I play with papers that I get. All right, enough about papers, because I could talk about papers all day. I love papers. So let's start with what is a masterboard. And you might want to just pause this and go on over to Paulette's group and get these papers, and that way we could work together. That would be really fun. So the first thing to do with a masterboard, and a masterboard is really just collage, as far as I know. Like, I'm not a master, I do not have a master's in masterboards. All I know is what I see. So I put what I hear with what I see, and this is what I think. A masterboard is where you take a bunch of stuff and you make a collage, and then you can cut it apart and do stuff with it. So what you're first going to want is a piece of paper to build your masterboard on. And I tend to start with just the cheapy, whatever the cheapest paper. You could even use a piece of newspaper. I mean, it's just basically a thing to glue stuff on. And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take all your pieces that you have available, and you're just going to start ripping them in pieces. So we're just going to start ripping. And I'm going to start with this beautiful piece. And I'm just going to start ripping it in pieces. I'm just getting over an emergency surgery, so this is how I've been spending my day since my surgery, is crafting like a crazy woman. So, all right, and I am going to cut this off just because I want to line it up with the edge of my paper. There is no cutting required here. You can use, and I think tearing is more fun because it allows you not to be precious. So you don't want to be precious about this. You want to be, it's very, this is very freeing. There are no rules. You can't do it wrong. I tend to like to ink my edges when I do this, because then when I get the finished product, the different pieces pop. They stand out more. So if I don't ink, things kind of blend together. And that maybe you might want it blendy. For me, I like it a little poppy. So, and I am going to use actual glue. If you're not doing anything really specific with it, you could quite easily use a good glue stick, because I know I'm going to be using this to cut apart and make things like the cover of my book, or something that's kind of sturdy. I am actually going to take the time to glue everything and make sure it's secure, because when you cut it apart, you might end up with a random floating loose edge here. So let's just go ahead and start cutting and gluing. That's what we're going to do. We're going to cut and glue. Okay, so I'm realizing as I'm going through this process that I actually do have a thought process involved, and thought I would share. So basically, when I'm doing this, I'm looking mostly to begin with to cover the background. So the background is going to be mostly bigger pieces, the big prints, stuff with big colors, big shapes, big whatever. And then as I get to, like now I'm getting into covering smaller areas, then I'm going to start figuring out, well, you know, like if I put this, for example, on top of here, you can't see it. So let me now start being a little more purposeful in where I'm putting these pieces. And this one I want to overlap on top of this, and that way it's still covering the white. And pretty soon, as you can tell, I'm going to start adding smaller and smaller components, sometimes very large components. But initially, you're going to be building large and small on top of each other, and then creating a couple of focal points that you can then use to however you want to use this once you cut it apart. So you're making this collage, then you are going to cut it apart. So for example, I made the mushy background, and it's very hard to tell here, but this had the same mushy background. When I cut it apart to make the front, I then went back to my prints and I printed a very large flower and a very large butterfly and stuck them on the front. So you could actually do that as you were building it and say, well, you know what? I'm going to want this to be a cover of a book. This whole side I want to be a cover of a book. So I think I want something very large here. So then you would go to your prints and you would pick a very large flower to now cover this spot. So you can do it one way or the other. Sometimes I build the background and then I'm like, okay, I've got the background all filled in. Now I want to see more butterflies, or I want to see more flowers. So then I pick those elements and make them pop out. So for right now, I'm still just at a point where I am simply covering the back, but as I cover more and more of this, I will be a little more purposeful in terms of my placement of pieces. So we'll just go back to gluing. why the hesitation? Right now I'm feeling like I have too much beige and too many words. So I'm trying to get this so that it's not covering up so much of my color and not creating words and words and words. So I think that's why I ripped it in half. I may use this little piece over here somewhere where it needs a little, this is all purple, so it might need a little words here. But I think I'm going to put this way. So as you can tell, as my paper gets more and more covered, I'm like, well, wait a minute, you know, I'm going to see a lot of this, or I'm not going to see a lot of that, and is that what I want to happen? So it changes up the, originally you're just gluing stuff down. And that's why it's kind of fun to start with maybe a page out of a notebook or a piece of newspaper or something, because the background is already covered up. You're not covering white paper. And then you're just adding stuff. Or maybe even start with a piece of, I had some lavender printer paper that I was going to start with, and I think that might have been a good idea because it would have felt very different than starting with white, but whatever. All right, back to gluing. All right, so we are getting down to the end. I actually went and printed off some more pieces of this because I feel like it needs, I'm at the point that I need some different stuff. It needs to be, I need a little more diversity. So I think I want a piece of this up here because we only have one piece down here. So let's add that little bit of color there and pattern and print, because I believe I'm at the stage where I'm ready to start fine-tuning. I'm ready to put my kind of the top images on, keeping in mind that I will want to be using this for, like I say, maybe the cover of a journal. I might want to be making tags with it. Specifically, if you are making this into tags, once you get to kind of this point, which let me get this piece on, and then I won't be doing 3 things at once. I'll only be doing 2 things at once. It's so gloomy here today. It's raining, and I'm happy just to be doing something like this because it's very gloomy looking out my window. My Create desk space is right in front of a window, so that's nice because I can always see outside. But today it is gloomy and rainy and weirdly warm. Weirdly warm. All right. I think I like that there. And I think I would like, not knowing what I'm doing with this, I think I would just, I have a balance thing. So because I have 2 pieces, I like to have 3. It kind of balances out your head and your vision and all that kind of stuff. So I think I'm gonna, even though I'll probably cut this apart, I still feel like I would like it somewhat balanced right now. So if you're using patterns, think in odd numbers. So if you have a flower, either use 1 or 3. 2 is going to kind of be hard. You're kind of have this feeling like you've lost a shoe or something, missing a friend. All right, this is one little piece. I'm not even sure I want all of this on here, so let's glue it up and we'll see. I probably should have decided first because I'll have to ink it if I'm not using the whole piece. And where do I want this? I think I want that right there. Yeah, that's fine. I have a couple of white spots down here, so I probably need to put something there. Let's just put a little snippet of this here. A little more ink. And I've put my pin down for my glue somewhere, which means my glue is going to get clogged in the top. All right, get this little piece on here. And then I think we're kind of ready for some fine tuning, and that's going to require some either fussy cutting or tearing. I got to find my pin. I don't know where my pin went. I need to put the pin on the top of my glue. Do I have another one somewhere? Yes. Let's just use another one. Seems like I either have 4 on my workspace or none. I don't know how that happens, but they all disappear and then they all come back all at the same time. That's okay. All right, I tore this off, so I got to ink where I tore it. All right, a little more glue because it dried up 2 minutes that I was figuring out what I was doing there. I like that. And I have a little spot there. Let's take this little tiny print. Do I have a piece of that that's already ripped? Take a little piece of this. And we'll make sure we get that little pretty flower right there. And this has got kind of a little bit of an edge to it, so all right. And I'm putting that there. I think that's bigger than I want it. I'll just toss that pretty little bit of flour. Toss it over here. We'll use it somewhere else. Get this on here. And then we will start talking finishing touches on the masterboard. And some of the spots, like over here, this, like, that's going to need a flower or something. That's just, oh, there's my pin stuck to my board. Hilarious. Put it back in the glue. Okay. This is obviously going to need something over here. There's not a whole lot going on in terms of a collage. So I'm definitely going to have to add something there. Oh, I just found a great use for these brushes. Look at that. Holds my pin perfectly. I won't lose my pin if I stick it in there. All right. That's a blending brush for ink. And I was using it with my purple, but upside down it works for a fantastic pin cushion for my tip of my glue. Somebody needs to invent a better thing besides a pin to go in that top of that glue, because that's really kind of a challenge. All right, let's see. How do I want this? I think I want it that way. All right, and I think, you know what, this little tiny flower that I have, I'm going to stick it over in this spot where I feel like I didn't know. If I'm going to stick anything over there, it needs to have the darker purple background. So let's find a little piece of that in here. Got so many bits and pieces of this because, like I say, I print it over and over and over again. There we go. All right, let's use that. And we have a shape that we kind of want it. I don't think I want much of that. I think I just want a little bit of it. All right. All right. Don't lose the pin. Ah, found the other one. Now I have 2 pins. When I started out 2 days ago, I had 4 pins. Then I was down to no pins. All right. Stick this last piece on, and then we'll focus on focal points. And I really like this Beck & Sons. I'm hesitant to cover that up too much. I think we'll do it that way. Okay, and I gotta trim that off even though I don't have to. Okay. So at this point, our basic masterboard background is complete. And next up, we will use the provided ephemera and beautiful papers that Paulette gave us to create focal points, to add interest, and then consequently turn our masterboard into tags and book covers. This is Lisa at Imagination Sisterhood Studio, and thank you for joining me. Please like and subscribe.